Good day, everyone. Welcome to today's English language class. My name is Ebozo Ebuka. The topic of discussion for today is complex sentence. Before we move to getting to know more about complex sentence, we'll first of all know the meaning of a sentence. What is a sentence? Sentences are a set of words that are complete in itself, typically containing a subject and a predicate, conveying a statement, question, exclamation, or command, and constituting of a main clause and sometimes one or more subordinate clauses. Example we can see of a sentence is: the human brain never stops working until you stand up to speak in public. That's a complex sentence, and that's also a complex sentence because we'll have two different clauses joined together. Because the first one is the human brain never stops working, it's a sentence, and also until you stand up to speak in public, that's a subordinate clause. So although he was wealthy, he was still happy. He was still unhappy, sorry. That's a complete sentence where we could see two different clauses coming together to make a complete sentence. Although he was wealthy is a complete sentence which can also stand on its own. And he was still unhappy is a subordinate clause. So the main clause and the subordinate clause come together and they make one unique meaning, which is a complex sentence. Now, going to the meaning and definition of a complex sentence. A complex sentence consists of an independent clause and a dependent clause. A dependent clause starts with a subordinating conjunction, or a relative pronoun, and contains a subject and a verb, but does not express a complete thought. In other words, complex sentences are made up of a main clause with one or more dependent clauses joined to it with an appropriate conjunction or pronoun, like the example I gave earlier ago on the sentences example, where we could see how the conjunction was made effective in the example: the human brain never stops working until, that's a conjunction, until you stand up to speak in public. Note, the complex sentence is one of the basic sentence structures in English. When I mean it's one of the basic, it's one of the major types of sentences we have. When we have simple sentence, we'll also have complex sentences, and then we'll have compound sentences. So it's one of the major types of sentences we have in English language. Examples of complex sentences: John left when his sister arrived. The clause "when his sister arrived" is a dependent clause because it is followed by the word when, which is subordinating conjunction. That's a subordinating conjunction. Dependent clause are not complete sentences. They cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. When his sister arrived, it's not complete because you have to ask what happened when his sister arrived. Did she bring anything? What happened? So this cannot stand alone because it does not make complete sense. Dependent clauses must be attached to an independent clause in order to form a complete sentence. In other words, the complete sentence, or in that complex sentence, the independent clause there is John left. So now when you bring it together, John left when his sister arrived, makes better meaning. The second example there is: my mom smiled when I made lunch. My mom smiled when I made lunch. We could see the separation. This sentence has an independent clause of my mom smiled, which has a subject and a verb. It's so complete. It's a complete sentence. And a subordinate clause of when I made dinner. And when I made dinner seems right, but it's not complete. It's not a complete sentence because it doesn't have a subject and a verb, subject and predicate. You can see that it starts with a conjunction. When I made dinner. When I made dinner, what happened? My mom smiled. With a subordinate conjunction of when. We could see the when there. My mom smiled when I made dinner. So moving to the next one, how to write a complex sentence. First of all, we should know that all complex sentences have an independent clause and a dependent clause. The independent clause is just one, while the dependent clause might be one or two, depending on your sentence construction. The second one, complex sentences can have more than one dependent clause. That's what I just said. The third one, to connect independent clause and dependent clauses, you need a dependent marker word or subordinating conjunctions such as when, though, if, while, etc. The fourth one, dependent marker words come at the beginning of a complex sentence, e.g., when the rain fell, we drank hot tea. So that means conjunctions that dependent marker words can actually come before the main clause. So the subordinate clauses can actually come before the main clause. The fifth one, when a dependent marker word comes at the beginning of a sentence, you need a comma at the end of that dependent clause to make the sentence proper. See an example. Though he likes to play, he studies hard also. You could see the comma comes after the play. Because if you had said it straight, though he likes to play, he studies hard also, it doesn't fit. So the punctuation there is necessary when the dependent clause and the dependent marker word comes before the independent clause or the main clause. The sixth one is when a dependent marker word comes in the middle of a sentence, you do not need a comma. For example, he would have passed the exams if he had read his books. You can't be putting a comma in the middle before or after if, because it would disorganize the sentence. He would have passed the exams if he had read his books. The sentence is straightforward, which makes it complete. Even if is our conjunction, it still makes better meaning. So moving to the next one, we could have the exercises for drilling ourselves, making us better. I hope we enjoyed this class. Thank you for staying with us.